Welcome everyone, friends first of all species. I'm Daisy Hayno. We're back with another episode of Winds of Change. Now, last time we did our final goodbyes to everyone, because we're about to go balls deep into the future. Man, hold on, I need to save. I forgot to save. Balls deep into the final battle. Why is my head is so itchy? Anyway, so we said our final goodbyes. Whenever I press this little arrow, we should be on to the final end. Would you like to end the journey? Ooh, let's do this! I descend the stairs of the Grand Library, the crisp Baltean air assaulting me. I shiver and stand in disbelief at how uninviting the city seems to be. If this is where I'd sit in the throne, we'd need to change a lot. Looking around the area, it appears that everyone is here. I try to take a head count, just to make sure that's correct. This was the final attack. We needed all of our might. I see Dominic shaking hands with the created seers. Good, they helped us secure the library and survived. They would be a valuable asset in holding the town square. It was nice to see their full potential finally realized. Using their visions, they outsmarted an entire horde of enemies. It was in the exact same moment that I knew I had made the right choice. When I make it to the bottom of the stairs, Dominic waves me over. Our forces run around, seemingly taking on an infinite number of tasks. Everyone is doing something. It made everything seem much more final. I could tell that this was the last time I'd see a lot of these people. There was no way we'd make it through without any casualties. Trying to tune out the final preparations, I make my way to Dominic. Just as he says that, Pro walks by. Dominic calls out his name and he quickly runs over. That's right, he was tasked with causing a distraction in the castle. He smirks at me, a confident, cocky smirk. If he followed through, then I'd find no resistance. It should be smooth sailing when we get to the castle. He holds out his hand and trembles softly. Aww. He shakes Dominic's hand with a firm grip. The handshake is broken and they give each other uneasy smiles. The kind of smile that acknowledges they may never see each other again. And soon after that, Pro is on his way, off to face his fate directly and unafraid. He places a hand on my shoulder. Oh, he's probably still pissed. He looks around, confusion worn on his face. Uh-oh, did I fuck this up? Before I can even respond, I hear a loud cracking noise. Turning around to see the source, I see the door of the library smashed open. August is shoved through, landing face first on the stone, still tied up. Smoke billows out of the open door as Hal exits the library. August struggles on the ground, squirming like some sort of insect. A blaze as bright as the sun itself makes Hal look like a silhouette. He's burning the library! Upon hearing Dominic, he steps forward and grips August by the hair. Raising him to his knees, he looks down in horror at our massive army. It was almost as if in that moment he knew he was on the wrong side. We all stare in awe as Hal pulls a dagger, holding it in his free hand. The smoke and the bright illumination reveal to us in one frightening act. Hal has torched the inside, burning the books and his culture. Hal shakes his head, disobeying Dalamic's orders. Running the dagger along August's throat, then kicks him down the stairs. A trail of blood follows him all the way down, streaming against the cold snow. He slowly descends the stairs, the crimson dagger dripping blood. As the flames shoot out of the front door, Hal's face is finally lit up. It appears devoid of all feeling, even after what he had done. Wait, isn't that dude immortal, though? Dominic immediately draws his sword, holding it toward Hal. Domic's arm trembles, realizing Hal was right. But isn't that our only one safe space? Hal throws the dagger onto the ground. Dominic lowers his sword, letting out a sigh. Hal was right. August served the enemy, making him an enemy. And the beacon was paramount to our success. It could not be put out. Hal finally makes it to our location and stands beside us. He shrugs, almost like this isn't a big deal at all. He's right. I had to make my way to the castle. If I use the mountain pass, I should find little resistance. Every suit of armor would soon be on their way to the library. I nod. This was happening so fast, but I could waste no time. We knew this was coming. We knew we'd have to take action. I started to walk away, but Dominic calls out to me a moment later. Yep. I smile and nod. That would have to suffice as a goodbye. After I gather up Valessa, Ulrich, Morty, and Sophie, we head out. If we hurried, we could get through the town square before the suits came. In our haste, we almost said no words to one another. There was a silent agreement that the task at hand was more important. And knowing that any word could be our last, silence seemed more appropriate. Halen knelt before his masters, more eager to serve than he had ever been before. He looked up at them, awaiting their orders, perhaps the final orders they'd give. It would be up to him to lead the honor guard and ensure their victory today. So I guess this is what Hal was meaning. Halen wondered, but for what side? Without a word, Halen is off on his way. In this moment, he truly became the Grand Inquisitor. Last line of defense between the triumvirate and a weak insurrection. They all look at each other and nod. For the first time in ages, doubt fills their chambers. Thankfully, nobody was there to witness such a fault. Pro enters the triumvirate's castle, careful not to gather unwanted attention. The staircase in the middle is one that led up to their chambers for sure. This meant he'd have to lure the honor guard off to the left or right side. Paths on either side of the stairs led to the other sections of the castle. If he had to guess, he'd say that they'd led to living quarters or practice rooms. Much to his luck, a horde of honor guards was gathering at the base of the stairs. He examines the area, noticing large metallic stands holding lit candles. That would be sure to cause a distraction, but how would he use it? His eyes are drawn to large glass-stained windows lining the hall. Pro grabs one of the metallic stands and shakes off the candle. It falls to the ground and the wax shatters in almost every direction. Wasting no time, he causes as big of a commotion as he can. He shatters one of the windows by thrusting the candle holder through it. The honor guard looks over and immediately begins walking toward Pro. With a quick smirk, he laughs at how easily he was able to carry out his goal. Oh my god. He runs down the hall, shattering window after window. A trail of broken glass is left behind for the suits to follow after. However, he moves slow on purpose, keeping an eye on the horde. Howl and Dominic stand side by side in the town square of Balteus. They could hear the sound of the honor guard marching to their location. Echoes of steel grating against steel assaults their ears as they wait. Damn, that was a badass thing to say, bro. Yeah, for real. Dominic brushes some ash off his shoulder. Remnants of the books from the library filled the air. From behind, one of their allies steps forward. Now all three of them were standing side by side. The footsteps of the honor guard got louder and louder. They stepped in unison, sounding like a heart that beat too fast. Fair enough. Vivian shakes his head. As they talk, the first honor guard comes into view. One stood in front of the rest as if assigning themselves as the role of leader. It was odd. They all thought that such mindless suits had a sense of hierarchy. However, there was no time to think about such trivial things. Mere moments later, the rest of the suits gathered behind their leader. On the other side of the town square, it seems like thousands had arrived. Dominic gulps and draws his sword. Everyone behind him does the same, and the sound fills the town square. Even from the opposing side, all they can hear is the unsheathing of blades. But when everybody is armed, nothing happens. What? They stand on opposite sides, both forces staring at each other. Dominic looks left and right to his allies before speaking out. Even after his instruction, nobody makes a move. The ash in the air thickens, remnants of the monarchy showering over them. Dominic takes a step forward and holds his sword up in the air. The soldiers cheer, holding their swords up in the air as well. But soon after, they fall back down, resting in a fighting position. Dominic says nothing, simply holding his sword towards the enemy. That was enough to spring the army into action. Charging toward the honor guard, steel soon clashes against steel. Screams fill the town square as both sides meet and clash in the middle. Dominic and Hal remain behind everybody, watching the initial charge. They'd wait for an ample opening and join the army at the right time. Hal places a hand on Dominic's shoulder and gives him a soft nod. In response, he gulps and looks at Hal. He catches a bunch of falling ash in his hand. After looking at it for a moment, he crushes it in a fist. And mere seconds later, they were lost in the crowd. Oh, damn. That's an awesome statue. We arrived at what seems to be the summit of the mountain pass. Though we took a long way around, I could still hear fighting in Balteus. Swords clashing against swords and the screaming of agony found only in war. We all spread out as soon as we arrive in the same spot. I was a bit ahead of everyone else, so I let them catch up. When I do so, Sophie decides to approach me for a chat. I shrugged. There was really no way to know. Hopefully, Pro was able to cause his distraction. I nod as Sophie turns away and starts to look around the area. It appears like he's been here before and finds great comfort in it. A few seconds later, my attention is diverted towards an ecstatic Fortem. Morty. A dragon. Ulrich turns to face the large, intimidating statue. Yeah, that's true. Second, but okay. Ulrich nods as Morty quickly walks over toward me. I could tell he's frightened, but he looks helpful as well. I nod, and a moment later we're locked in a tight embrace. Alright, let's get this, man! Come on, we kiss perhaps for the last time. Ew! Bro, how fucking childish am I to see, like, this character kiss another character and me go, ew! That was my first reaction. I was like, ew! Man, how old am I? Golly! Before he heads out, he hugs Valessa. They share a few words, and then he's off on his way. His path would lead to the tower, while ours would lead directly inside. He nods, then starts walking away from us. We gather together and follow him close behind. I pray with every fiber of my being that she's right. After what seems like an eternity, the triumvirate's castle comes into view. I've never been more terrified in my life. The end was finally within reach. The castle looks just as corrupt and decaying as everything else. Almost even more so, like it could be the source of all this death. As we get closer, I look over the exterior, then I see Morty. He's climbing the tower just as directed. It's a sight to behold. If he could get to that bell tower, then the world would surely be ours. But I see him struggling. This castle was clearly his hardest climb. With no safety nets, any slip-up would be fatal. I try not to think about it as we arrive at the bridge to the castle. Much to our dismay, the bridge is completely covered in suits of armor. They turn to face us as soon as we approach. A few seconds later, they start to march towards us. They're slow. Our presence took some time to register. Normally, I'd be confident. These things are easy to slay. But this was a viable horde. Hundreds, maybe even 1,000. It must have been another group en route to the burning Grand Library. Me and Valessa give Ulrich a firm nod. Sophie stands by his side. A moment later, in perfect unison, they both charged into the crowd. The honor guard stood no chance, not against 2 former Grand Inquisitors. Hell yeah! The suits start to crumble and fall as they fight across the bridge. Ulrich's greatsword and Sophie's fist kill almost 10 or more each second. Damn, Sophie's just fisting this shit? Okay. However, as I look to the back, I notice a bunch of suits have bows. Oh no. I shout out to Ulrich and Sophie, letting them know the danger. Oh, damn. I suppose that's a good strategy. After I unsheath the blade of the Exodus, I step forward. My goal is to find a good opening so I can hop in and assist them. No such opening comes. They slay with unmatched expertise. The two fight side by side as if they are one entity, perfect synergy. Me and Valessa notice the archers at the back prepare to shoot. We both rush forward, each disarm one of the enemies. With no means to fight us back, we hold them in place. Any arrows coming our way would hit them first. A perfect plan, if that's actually what the archers were planning. Were they gonna shoot Morty? Much to our shock, as the chaos on the bridge unfolds, they turn around. They're no longer aiming at our direction. They're aiming at Morty. No! Her calls fall upon deaf ears. He was too far away to hear. There was no way for any of us to prevent what happened next. They let their arrows fly. Some missed, but one practically pierced Morty's side. He immediately starts losing his grip and appears that he may fall off. There's nothing we can do. We can't call out to him or get there to help. I have to do something quickly. They're preparing to shoot at him again. I don't take her suggestion to heart. I have my own idea. Running forward and pushing Ulrich and Sophie out of the way, I ready my sword. They'd pay for hurting my friend. Every single one of them would pay. I thrust my blade through one of the suits, then look over at Morty. He looks so weak and delirious. Moments later, he falls from the tower. That sight alone is enough to fill me with more rage than I've ever felt before. Activating the blade, that familiar flash of white light blinds us all. I can hear my allies struggling as if they're still fighting while blinded. A few seconds later, I hear nothing but the shattering of every suit of armor. As the light subsides, we're greeted with the sight of victory. Every member of the honor guard on the bridge was dead. I absorbed them into the blade, making it even stronger. No, it was the imaginary, invisible man. I don't know. I nod and I tell them I use the emotion inside me as catalyst. The emotion from seeing Morty fall, perhaps to his death. As we glance over to the tower, though, I see that I was wrong. He holds on to the edge of a window and struggles to climb inside. So he wanted to drop, to fall to a window and get inside to safety. I can see that his clothes are covered in blood from the arrow wound. Eventually, he makes it inside and we're all relieved. For a few seconds there, it seems like all hope was lost. Me, Sophie, and Ulrich smile at one another. Valessa, however, has a look of shock on her face. What? We turn to face the same direction as her. She's looking back towards the town square, in the bulk of the battle. Another horde is marching in our direction, likely attracted by the light. Gah! No fucking shit! We all ready our weapons. We watch them walk towards us in unison. An unease fills the air, and I doubt I could deactivate all of them. I only did that thanks to the surge of emotion from seeing Morty shot. It wouldn't be right for me to rely on something like that again. Part of me wonders if we should flee inside and fight them off in the castle. But we had no idea what awaited us inside, or if Pro was even successful. Valessa steps forward, standing in front of us. She trembles, perhaps terrified of what's to come. Ah, man, our girl's gonna die? Balls. At least take the immortal Sophie with you. Sophie backs down, realizing there's no point. Each second needed to be filled with action, not inaction. If we wasted time, we'd just hand victory over to the enemy. Valessa pulls out her mother's daggers with a gulp. I guess taking them from Mazeo was a good idea after all. My mind tells me to talk her out of this, but I say nothing. If she fought hard enough, she'd be able to survive. Those suits are weak and mindless. I feel like she'd be okay. I justify her choice in my mind, perhaps because I know it's inevitable. She wraps her arms around me and gives me a tight hug. I know that this may be the last time we see each other, and it hurts. We've come so far since our time in Valenorth and changed so much. Bro, I would have zero judgment if you just, you held him off as long as you could and then you just dipped. I would have zero judgment. I tell her to stay safe and survive. A moment later, the tight hug is broken. You damn right? Yeah. Is that still the plan? Because he's kind of dying in the okay. And a moment later, we're both off in opposite directions. But as we head towards the castle, I can't help but look back. I'm both worried and hopeful, and both sides are at war. I see her charge into the crowd, holding out her daggers. The sound of her stabbing the suits soon fill the air. They fall apart and hit the ground with loud thuds. Oh damn, that's a new icon. Not a good one. With a smirk on my face, I realize her victory is clear. We retreat into the castle and the sight makes my jaw drop. The castle is hauntingly beautiful, like nothing I've seen before. As we venture forward, I can only hope that Pro was successful. The bell hasn't rung yet, but I have the utmost faith in Morty's ability. He's not climbing anymore. He's in the building, isn't he? I guess there might be stairs up, to go up there. Whatever. I let out a deep sigh of relief. I'm here in their castle. This is the end. Eventually, Pro's path led him to a massive dining hall. However, much to his surprise, it also doubles as a dead end. He examines his surroundings, looking for somewhere to escape. What about the fireplace? Like, just turn off the fire and go up the thing, I guess. With each passing second, the outer guard grows closer. In a panic, Pro grabs a couple of knives from the tables, daggers. He hadn't planned to fight, but it appears he had no choice. The windows here were iron barred rather than stained glass. It almost makes it seem as if this room is a prison. How fitting. He takes in a deep breath and waits for the suits to enter the room. But when they do, he's shocked. There's far more than before. As if they gathered up several hordes to follow him in pursuit. Both a bad sign and a good sign. His distraction really worked. Why not? I'm just remembering Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. When there's a monster house, you're supposed to back out of the room and, like, back out further enough to where it's like a little line and you only have to kill them one at a time. Boom. There. Just saved your ass using video games, Pro. He jumped on top of the table, giving him a height advantage. Now they're gonna surround you. Whatever. As the honor guard starts to climb up, he picks them off one by one. It was no problem. He just kept this up until all of them were dead. But they kept pouring into the room, and armor covered the table and floor. They're coming too fast, and he no longer had to fight them off one by one. They climb the table, and he suddenly fights 3 at the same time. He starts to tire, his limbs growing weak from all the fighting. But still, he doesn't stop. He never gave up without winning. Don't accept defeat until the very end. Every gambler's rule. As agile as he was dexterous, fighting with daggers was second nature. But he'd need more than that. At this rate, he'd need some range. As the suits fall, he grabs one of their long swords to use. It seems that they too followed the rule of never accepting defeat. Swords clash as Pro is soon accosted from every angle possible. A blade grazes his shoulder and blood strips down his clothes. This just urges him to fight even further. However, the horde never seems to go down in numbers. They run into the dining hall faster than he could take them out. Soon enough, there's absolutely nowhere to go. But even as hope starts to dissipate, Pro doesn't give up. He continues fighting until the floor is a sea full of pieces of armor. A sword is plunged through his shoulder and he stumbles back crying. Gritting his teeth, he pulls it out and starts using 2 swords simultaneously. As if they were an extension of his body, he fights with immense grace. The wound is pouring blood and he starts to get lightheaded. Shaking his head, he tries to snap himself back into cognition. But a moment later, a sword is violently thrust through his side. Oh shit, is he like legit gonna die? He lets out a battle cry, a sort of scream, and keeps on fighting. But as made evident by his weakening swings, his time was limited. He fights almost delirious from the blood loss. His last-ditch effort to survive, he jumps off the table. If he could just fight his way to the exit, he'd survive. A fantasy brought on by his deluded state, no doubt. It wouldn't have worked before, and it wouldn't work now. White suits of armor on the ground are crimson with his blood. Moments later, something surprising happens. The honor guard spreads out, almost like they're retreating. He falls to his knees, curious as to what's going on in their minds. Did the bell ring? They sheathe their blades as Pro kneels in a puddle of his own blood. That's what it was. An admission of victory and their opponent's death. Aww. He cries and tries to repeat himself once more, as if it's sort of a mantra. He falls down on his side, crying and bleeding out on the floor. Don't accept defeat, at last, not until the very end. Unfortunately for him, it seems like this was it. In his final moments, he comforts himself with warm thoughts. Thoughts as warm as the pool of blood that now covers the floor. He passes on with a smile, finding happiness in the success of his task. Aw, fuck! I liked Pro. I'll see you in hell, bud. Hal is completely surrounded, fighting to the best of his efforts. A one-on-one fight would be no problem, but this was too much. In total, there must be 10,000 of honor guard here. Fighting with his fist, he punches through the suits of armor into pieces. He prefers to use his own body as a weapon rather than anything else. Other people fought with an extension of their body, but he needed none of that. In this moment, Hal was thankful that all of his power remained intact. Had the monarch heeded his request, he would surely be close to death. Thankful for that fact, he fought on with an ever-increasing sense of determination. Dominic was nowhere to be seen, but Hal hoped that he was still alive. There were so many suits of armor that it was probably impossible to keep track. One stray arrow, one thrown dagger, one sneak attack, and it was over. As he punched through the suits of armor, he finally saw an ally. Changing the direction of his assault, he fought his way toward them. Greeting him with a smile, it was a relief to see a friendly face for once. Vivian jumps behind Hal, taking out a suit that was sneaking up on him. Thanking his ally, Hal responded by doing the same, but behind Vivian. No matter where they stood, there was always an enemy in pursuit. Arrows fly overhead every few seconds. The enemy archers were skilled. Hal couldn't see, but he knew those arrows hit home on his allies. With his back pressed against Vivian, their rears are finally protected. Vivian lunges forward, taking out several suits of armor. Then we die, motherfucker. Then a moment later, he presses his back against Hal again. The despair in his voice was clear. They could keep fighting, but things were looking bad. Even if each man killed 100 suits, they'd still be outnumbered. Hal shakes his head, freeing himself from the onslaught of ash. The library, still ablaze, rained remnants of the monarchy upon them. The honor guard seemed unimpeded by this, but not the rebellion. It was almost as if, when the suits fought together, they shared one mind. This causes them to be weak on their own, but formidable as a group. However, it meant that the more they killed, the weaker their enemy became. As they talk, they keep fighting. The enemy never lets up for a second. Arrows fly through the air once more and screams fill the air. They knew that their forces were dying. The suits had no need to scream. Hal wasn't even sure if they felt pain or feared their own demise. And he wondered if those things would be a weakness or a strength. His knuckles became bloody and cracked as they fight for their lives. They continued to protect each other, fighting as if they were one body. Vivian didn't respond. Oh no, he's dead, isn't he? Vivian shakes his head, panting heavily. Vivian nods and runs towards the library. Soon enough, he disappears into the crowd of suits. Howell's back is vulnerable once more, but he still fights. All he could do is face the enemy and his fate head on. Charging into the crowd with a scream, rage wells up within him. There are no allies to be seen, just target after target waiting to be killed. And that's what happens next. He shatters the enemies like weak glass. They fall to the ground, leaving a trail of carnage in his wake. He had killed more than his fair share and still went on. Eventually, a barrage of arrows assaults him. Piercing through his torso, he grunts in immense pain. However, the pain was minimal compared to the pain he normally felt. He pulled out the arrow and throws them onto the ground. Blood spills from the wound, but he shows no sign of pain. Such wounds would do nothing to a body powered by the monarchy. All he had to do was keep fighting until the bell was rung. But that was the question on everyone's mind right now. With such an immense task before him, would Morty succeed? It seemed that right now, almost everything lay in his hands. Howell fought ruthlessly, hoping to hear that bell, the final relief. But with each passing second, the hope within him dwindled. Ooh, so far we got at least Pro dead. Morty pants heavily, panicking with an arrow in his side. He knew that if he pulled it out, things would only get worse. It would be best to keep it inside until he could find some help. It wouldn't be fatal, so it gave him some great relief on his own. Hiding in a spare room, he found he needed to take a breather. Just crack off the end of the arrow and keep going, man. It was perfect timing as suits started to scurry around outside. He shakes his head, realizing there was only one way to find out. As he goes to sneak out of the room, he bumps into a table. A bottle of wine falls off and shatters with an echo. Fuck! His entire body tenses up as he hears the armor guards stop moving. He runs to the other side of the room and hides behind a curtain. It would have been easy to sneak around them, but not for the wine. Now every single suit of armor in the hallway would know he's here. He remains as still as possible as one of them enters the room to scout. The suit kneels down to inspect the broken glass, then looks over to the curtain. Well, they're dumb as shit, so maybe his cover was blown. He made a small trail of wine with his footsteps. Fuck it, duck. He holds his breath as the suit of armor makes its way towards his location. Then a few moments later, it plunges a sword right into the curtain. Morty dodges to the left, then rips the curtain down from the wall. Wrapping it around the suit of armor, he has it in a strong chokehold. He hesitates for a few moments, then he snaps his enemy's neck. Damn! The suit crumbles, but has nowhere to fall, being held together by the curtain. He slowly rested on the ground. This was his first real fight, his first kill. If he survived to ring that bell, he knew he would never be the same. He slowly unravels the curtain and grabs the sword belonging to the suit. As soon as he does, more of them enter the room to check up on their ally. Morty wondered if they felt emotion, if they would mourn the suit he killed. They drew their swords, but Morty wasn't sure what prompted it. Anger at their dead ally, or perhaps blind loyalty to the triumvirate. He'd never know, and in a moment he realized it was for the best. Swords clashed against sword as he fought for his life. But not just his. Almost everybody else's lives were at stake too. They were relying on him to ring that bell, and he couldn't let them down. All he had to do was survive. So he's dead. When we get inside the castle, I notice that it's completely empty. I'm filled with hope. Pro must have been successful in his distraction. Haha, you have no idea. Otherwise, this place would have been teeming with those suits of armor. All we have to do is make our way to the top and then take them down. With the triumvirate dead and the bell rung, victory was ours. I cross my fingers, hoping that Morty travels are going well. Ha! I nod. He was right. This was the end of our journey. After everything I've been through, I was finally in their castle. I started walking towards the stair. My next actions were clear. Then go? Confusing, how so? Not a second later, somebody enters the room from the opposite side. Halen! That's the man from our HQ, the one with Sophie, clad in white and gold. He descends the stairs, laughing at us. A horde of suits follow. I unsheathe my blade and hold it out toward our enemy. There was no time to argue semantics with the likes of him. But as if to guard me, Ulrich and Sophie step forward, getting in the way. Clearly an act, Sophie wanted Halen dead. That, and he could never agree. He was under their thrall. A moment later, Halen disappears into the crowd of suits. The suits of armor reach the bottom of the stairs. But Halen is nowhere to be seen. We just hear his voice. He must have used the confusion of the crowd to escape. The honor guard draws their swords as Halen's laughter fills the room. At Halen's command, the honor guard charges in our direction. Sophie and Ulrich are the first to fight, making sure that I'm protected. But I make sure to play my part. I take them down with similar ease. The suits of armor stand no chance against the Blade of Exodus. The same could be said of Ulrich's greatsword and Sophie's fist. I'm confident in our victory, but I try not to get too cocky. It seems like there were almost 1,000 suits of armor here. Though we were doing good now, our bodies could easily weaken. A viable tactic: wear out your enemy with excessive numbers. As we fight, we find ourselves surrounded more and more. The honor guard seems to have almost herded us to a specific location. I stand back to back with Sophie and Ulrich. We're all panting heavily. They both look at me. He sheathes his massive blade as the suits close in on us. Wait, what? I'm confused, but I nod. We need to take action, and now. I lunge forward and destroy one of the suits. Then the blade moves from my hands to Sophie's. He does the same as me and destroys several suits. As if passing baton, Ulrich is next up, swinging the blade. Then, almost instantaneously, it's back in my hands. I keep fighting. We're pressed back to back, exchanging the blade with our power. Phasing it from person to person as needed, we're almost one mind. As if intricately choreographed dance, we continue to fight. In this moment, we really did command the blade. We were its owners. I feel unstoppable, but then I realize, could the triumvirate do this as well? If they could, then we're in for a difficult fight. I let Ulrich take the blade, and we continue passing it around. It isn't much longer until the horde is thinned out. We're winning. This is true teamwork, unlike anything I've seen in my entire life. I take back the blade and destroy the suits in front of me. Their numbers have easily halved in just a few short minutes. At this rate, we'd free to take those stairs at any second. The triumvirate must have been scared. I could feel it. In the end, all the tyrants had left to do is cower in fright. Whatever game they were playing, it would soon be over. We continue our dance until the last suit of armor has fallen. Though we're reduced to exhausted mess, we have won. Taking a deep breath, we try to regain our composure. Where's Halen? I phase the blade back into my hands and sheath it. Looking towards the stairs, it seems our next goal is clear. When we got up there, we'd make him regret taunting us. We make our way upstairs in pursuit of Halen. After what just happened, I was certain we'd win this. With our strength combined, nothing could stand in our way. The first thing I see is stairs. A lot of stairs. Shit! That's my least favorite thing. Fuck! I see it! They lead upwards in every conceivable direction. I know I was told there'd be a lot of stairs, but this is insane. The second thing I notice is the complete lack of Halen. Had he fled up those staircases, where could he be? Actually, I'm starting to wonder how he disappeared like that. If he was made from the blade, could he phase around as well? I hope that's not the case. That would prove far too tricky. However, due to his loyalty, I know we'd be in for a fight. Destroyed suits of armor and their swords line the floor. This must have been the remnants of a previous fight. Perhaps Morty or Pro came here before us. I nod. That was good advice. I take it to heart as we walk towards the stair. We hear Halen's voice, but I can't see him at all. That's when I finally see him, on one of the many flights of stairs. He's slowly making his way down, almost as if he's buying some time. I move to meet him halfway, but suddenly there's no need to move at all. Almost instinctively, I lowered myself as close to the ground as possible. From behind, a massive sword is swung. It comes close to removing my head. I turn around, greeted to the sight of Halen, so he can move around like that. Shoot! I hear boss music. Ulrich steps forward, interrupting before I can respond. Halen draws another sword, holding out two large blades. Oh, damn. He charges towards me and I do the same. Pulling out the blade of Exodus, our swords clash as we meet. They meet again and again, the echo filling the room as we fight. His strength is astounding as well as his speed. I've never seen a man fight with two swords quite so gracefully. He tries to trick me with fake swings and sudden movements. But I'll have to try harder than that. I counter him with ease. This dance continues and show no sign of tiring out. At this rate, death would come to whoever slipped up first. But I can't slip up, I have to win. I have to take down the triumvirate. This world belonged to me. I was the rightful heir to the throne. Halen was just a lackey to some powerful, hungry group of 3. If there was any justice in the world, then I would prevail. Perhaps I let that get to my head. This allows Halen to land a blow. Thrusting his blade into my shoulder, he twists it, then pulls it out. It was a wound that would prove to be harmless in the long run. But the pain is so intense, all I can do is stand there stiff and motionless. My blood drips to the floor and I take a few steps back, losing balance. Sovi lunges forward and pushes me to the ground. Phasing the blade into his hand, he blocks Halen's next attack. I bleed on the floor as I watch Sovi fight his former apprentice. Swords continue to clash and Halen is right. I've never seen Sovi quite so determined. Sovi nods. Halen seems surprised, as if he still trusts Sovi. Sovi lowers the blade, signaling his intent to stop fighting. Halen reacts with anger to that last part and charges towards Sovi. They're fighting again, just when things started to turn around. And a moment later, Sovi thrusts the blade through Halen's gut. Sovi looks horrified, as he harms his former apprentice and friend. No turning back, this was the exact moment his defection was complete. Halen grunts in pain as Sovi removes the blade. A horrific wound, but I don't think it would be enough. Created from the blade, Halen was surely resilient. I can hear such sadness in his voice. He's conflicted. Looking down at the floor, Sovi shakes as he watches Halen bleed out. A moment later, he falls forward and Sovi catches him in his arms. On the verge of tears, Sovi turns Halen around. Lowering him to the ground, he puts him in a strong chokehold. Halen struggles, trying to escape, but the wound renders him too weak. I look over at Ulrich as he watches in shock. I know that wound wouldn't kill Halen, just temporarily incapacitate him. Sovi must have known, but the sight and what he did was still too much for him. There's no way Halen could fight back right now. I could kill him with no difficulty at all, but I could also save him. If I removed the curse on his mind, maybe he'd serve our cause instead. But was that worth the risk? Something tells me I don't have much time to decide. If Sovi held him like that for too long, he'd be dead for sure. I'm going to respect Sovi, because Sovi's done a lot for us. He wanted us to liberate him. I had to liberate Halen, I had to let him survive and give him a chance. If he still chose to oppose us, then we could execute him after the war. But as long as his conservation was a possibility, I had to take a chance. I told Sovi to release the chokehold but hold Halen in place. He obeys without hesitation, and I slowly make my way over to him. Pressing the blade against Halen's chest, I ask it to give him his freedom. A few seconds later, Halen falls to the ground unconscious. I have him carried over to a safe spot where he could recover in silence. If and when he woke up, I hoped that it would be as a new, smarter man. With that out of the way, we had to make our way up those stairs. With a few more minutes, I'd be face to face with our enemy. It was time to rise to the challenge and change this world. Alright, man. See you on the other side. We both nod at him as he makes his way back to the atrium. On his way out, he picks up a sword from the ground. Sovi scoffs and does the same thing soon after. Yeah, I nod. He reaches behind me and adjusts my scabbard. I'm not sure why, but he switches it to the other side. I'm not left-handed, so that only made things awkward. But I chose to trust him. A second later, we're making our way up the stairs. But that's cool that they actually remembered that from the beginning, because I remember in the very beginning wondering how the fuck would be left-handed or right-handed make a difference. And a second later, we're making our way up the stairs. All we had to do was dethrone the triumvirate. Simple enough. After that, I'd meet my friends in the atrium, at least the ones that survived. Dominic fights for his life in the town square, surrounded by suits of armor. He's lost sight of all of his allies and is unable to tell if they're even still alive. Still, he fights on. He'd never give up, not when he's this close to the end. That bell would surely ring any minute and bring an end to the war. If the monarch followed through, then this world would belong to them. This is the fact that kept him fighting even as his hope was lost. Fatigue started to settle in, making him move slower. As suits of armor fell, so did his strength and resolve. He was surrounded, fighting in every direction. And just then an arrow pierced through his shoulder. He stumbles back and falls to his knees before pushing it out. This pain was minuscule compared to what he felt back in Museo. Rising up, he started to fight with anger as well as determination. In a rage, he takes down the suits of armor even faster than before. Another arrow pierces his upper body, but nothing could stop him now. Keeping this arrow in, he grabs another sword that lay on the ground. Fighting with two of them, he's able to guard himself more efficiently. The suits of armor are arriving faster than he could kill them, however. Soon enough, he was surrounded by more suits than he could hope to kill. With no allies around him to come to his aid, he knew things were dire. If Morty didn't ring that bell, then this could very well be his final stand. He throws his second sword to the ground and takes a deep breath. He was prepared to face his death. This somehow made him stronger. The pain from the arrow only served to push him to more extremes. His fight starts to become more and more desperate as tears blur his vision. The fact that he couldn't see any of his friends just hurt him even more. He had to assume that everyone around him had fallen during the battle. He held out his sword as if to threaten. His hands tremble. The honor guard did not heed his warning and they close in on him. Having no choice but to continue fighting, he lets out labored grunts. Through his blurred vision, he's almost unable to make out anything. His saving grace is the contrast of white suits over Baltea's decay. Using that as a guide, he's able to keep taking down his enemies. He tries fighting his way in the direction of the archers. Those were more of a threat to him than the suits with swords. In fact, he was certain that those archers had killed quite a few men. And unfortunately, he may be the next one added to their count. An arrow is shot through his gut and he screams, falling back. Not a grievous wound, but he's immediately caught off guard. Something smashes into the back of his head and he collapses. Turning around, he sees a suit holding a rock covered in his blood. An open wound to the back of the head starts staining the ground. Yeah, when can they use rocks? He writhes on the ground in pain and confusion. The suit kneels down and grabs the sword from the ground. It was the same one that Dominic had discarded moments earlier. He's surprised to see that the rest of the honor guard stands down, as if they acknowledge that this one deserved to be dealt the final blow. Dominic cries, looking up in horror as the suit raises the sword. But before they can follow through with their thrust, something happens. An arrow pierces through the suit of armor and it crumbles to the ground. Dominic looks around in confusion. Had an ally finally come to his aid? What? Oh, so you're saying if I would have killed Shane back on the boat, Dominic would have been done. Fuck. Shane? Dominic cries out softly, not sure what's going on. Last time he saw Shane, he tried to kill him and basically succeeded. But here he was now offering his hand. What was happening? Dominic shakes his head, but then realizes he has no other option. Grabbing Shane's hand, he accepts the help and rises to his feet. He stumbles forward, almost falling back down, but he doesn't. He presses his back against Shane, still a bit delirious. But his friend supports him as he draws a set of daggers. Confusion assails Dominic as everything was happening so fast. Dominic nods. Dominic nods again and raises his sword. A moment later, they both charge towards the suits of armor. Like a team and like old friends, they fight together once more. But Shane doesn't answer, at least not before the bell is rung. The bell's rung! A loud ringing fills the air, delivering the sound of hope to Dominic's ears. Bro, are you saying that if I had not saved Shane, then 2 seconds before the bell had rung, Dominic would have been killed? Fuck! Morty had achieved his goal, and that means his allies still lived. Dominic goes to keep fighting, but Shane holds him back. The honor guard turns to stare at the source of the ringing. Then they throw their swords to the ground without hesitation. Starting to march away, they abandon all their previous efforts. Without a word, Shane just stands there along with Domik. Together, as ash rains down on them, they watch their foes flee. Domik smiles, a few tears running down his face. Was it really over? No, that wasn't the right way of looking at it. Things had just begun. The monarch had to finish it all. Domik looked in the direction of the castle as hope rises within him. The town square is soon devoid of all foes. But now, without obstructed vision, Domik can see all of his allies. They raise their swords in the air and start cheering. Balteus was theirs. And soon the lives of the triumvirate would be theirs as well. They cheer the monarch's name, and then that's all Domik can hear. But that's all he needed to hear. The name of the monarch meant hope. Oh, shit! The ringing of bell echoes in my ears. It's almost deafening. I'm relieved to know that Morty survived and succeeded. Me and Sophie stand in darkness. It's hard to see. He hands me a torch that was hung against the wall. Yeah! I nod. The thought filled me with fright. I hold out the torch and see a bizarre sight before me. The walls are lined with gears like those on the blade. They spin and rotate in directions that they shouldn't. It makes no sense to me, but then again, neither does the blade. The gears on the blade spun in a way that was physically impossible. Fog lines the stairs leading up to the triumvirate's chambers. I was confident a moment ago, but this sight fills me with unease. I've never seen anything like it. It's very concerning to me. Bro, boss music for real. I couldn't see off the edges of the stairs, and there was no railing. The slightest stumble could send me back down to the atrium. I do need to get back there, but that's not the way I do it. I tell him that I don't care what they say to me, I'm here to kill them. They could speak to me all they wished, they'd never accomplish... They could speak to me all they wished, they'd accomplish nothing. An easy goal to have in mind, but in practice I guess I had no idea. I'd have to find out, however. Someone steps out of the room ahead of us. As they move towards us, I could see the white and gold of their cloak. One of them left the chambers. I thought they didn't do that. He turns to them in motion as if he's pleading. I mean, we are there with the sword, so... Oh, he's trying to fool them, right? The triumvirate looks down at both of us and sighs. Sophie gritted his teeth. I could tell he was angry. I'm confused, but I trust him. I knew that he was on my side. At least that's what I thought. Everything changes in an instant. I immediately try to run, but Sophie grabs my left arm. As much as I struggle, it's no use. He's too strong. He wants them to think that because it's switched, I'm left-handed. So by grabbing my left arm, they're gonna think, oh, she can't swing on us. Bitch! My man! Oh! Hell yeah! I'm filled with fright. How could he do this? A second after, Sophie phases the blade into his hands. Then, much to my regret, he slices through my arm with ease. Oh wait, hold on. I scream, and then from my elbow down, almost nothing remains. Woo! I'm still holding on hope I was right. I don't feel anything. It's almost as if my body numbs itself from the trauma. But the sight is all too real. My lower arm limp and dead on the floor. Blood splurts from the wound, and I look at Sophie in disbelief. He makes direct eye contact with me, and then looks at the torch. I'm still gripping it tightly, and that's when things make sense. Was he trying to fool them? I still have my good arm. I slump against the wall and use the torch to burn the wound shut. A disgusting smell fills the air, and all I could hear is cackling and sizzling. This is all I could do while I watched Sophie ascend the stairs with the blade. Well, I gotta hand it to him. Fuck! Here, I got it. The triumvirate looks down at my scabbard. They definitely believe Sophie removed my dominant arm. I don't know why any of this is happening, but I let it all unfold. I trust him. He continues to walk up the stairs slowly, as if somewhat scared. If I were him, I wouldn't want to make any sudden movements either. The triumvirate has the advantage here. All we could do was try our best. As he speaks, he reaches the top of the stairs and faces his master. The triumvirate lets out another sigh and proceeds to nod a few times. By now I'm almost coherent again. The wound bleeds no more, burnt shut. Sophie immediately drops the blade to his side and kneels down. It hit the ground with a loud metallic clang. There it rests motionless. He trembles, frightened, as the triumvirate nods. A moment later, the blade disappears from the ground. But it doesn't return to Sophie's hands or even mine. It phases directly through the chest of the triumvirate. Ho! He rises to his feet and grips the handle of the blade. I can see tears streaming from his eyes, sad at what he's done. He's shaking, as if he's almost refuses to believe that this is real. And a moment later, he pulls out the blade. Then, with a harsh kick, the triumvirate flies off the edge. I can hear them scream as they fall, and then the scream fade. Sylvie drops the blade, then drops back down to his knees. I'm starting to walk up the stairs, shocked at what I just saw. Bitch, I'm more concerned about where the fuck is my arm? One of them was dead, now only 2 more remain. I mean, you've already disarmed me. I summon the blade back into my hand and walk up the stairs. I stop as I arrive beside him, but he simply shakes his head. I consider placing my hand on his shoulder, but it's no use. Yeah, considering this hand is holding the blade and the other hand is down there. Fuck. With a sigh of regret, I realize there's nothing I can do. I wouldn't even have the time to chastise him. I decide to enter the chambers. His cries fill my ears and dissipate with each step I take towards the end. Either the end of the triumvirate or the end of myself. When I enter the chamber, it looks just like I remembered it. I've been here before. I've had visions of standing in this very spot. In those visions, I remember walking towards the idol in the back. I can feel the blade respond to the room, but I'm not sure why. It's not moving or anything, it's just a feeling deep in my gut. As I go to grab the blade, I hear a loud voice call out to me. Then, out of nowhere, 2 cloaks appear by the idol. One of them stays in place and the other walks towards me. The one in the back was surely my target, and the leader. What? Another reason, what could it be? I know I was not told to let them speak, but I'm curious. Assuming a neutral stance, I ask them to explain themselves. I notice they use my proper title. In this moment, there was no room left for doubt. Everything Hal told us about the triumvirate was true. They don't speak, they just stand there in silence. If I had anything to ask them, I guess now it's time to do it. However, earlier warnings echo in my head, warnings against letting them speak. Who are you? Where did the blade come from exactly? What are you doing to Alessia? Why did you imprison the monarchy? Why have I been having visions of this room? What makes me so special? Do I have a say in any of this stuff? Is it really worth all this trouble? Enough talk, let's finish this now. So, I have a brilliant idea because I'm evil. Watch this shit. Gonna go here. And I'm gonna go here. Then I'm gonna go here. And then I'm gonna ask every single question and reboot. Who are you? Okay, where did the blade come from? Whoa. From Major Minor, that's the cop, right? That was the hot hyena. I don't remember much of the first game. I just remember the characters. What are you doing? This. Why did you imprison the monarchy? Damn, he literally made us to be killed. Why have I been having visions of this room? Okay. What makes me so special? Do I have a say in all this? Is it really worth all this trouble? Enough talk. Let's finish this now. That was enough talk. I came here to kill them, and that's what I'd do. No matter what they had to say, they couldn't talk themselves free. They'd hurt my world and my friends. I would make them suffer. This member of the triumvirate is talking so differently. The one back in the previous room had almost a completely different story. If being caught in a cycle could drive them mad, I had to wonder which one was mad. Kill. I'm sick of hearing it. I'm sick of this weak justification. I phased the blade into my hand and thrust it through their chest. But like I was warned before, the idol responds to my aggression. The room is engulfed in a blinding darkness. It must be the idol. The blade usually causes a white light. I feel immense warmth around me, and I hear a cackling of flames. Oh, for a second, I thought it was about to send me to the first vision all the way at the very beginning, whenever we were in the fiery flame. Okay. The darkness fades and the entire room is engulfed in flame. The triumvirate stands before me, bleeding and crying. These were no gods, just weak, arrogant people. I turn left and face the flames, forcefully taking them with me. I hold them there with the blade, tempted to absorb their soul. But no, they don't deserve it. They don't deserve the satisfaction. I pull the blade out and watch as the wound oozes blood. Then I grab them by the cloak and pull them close to me. This is their final moment. I curse them and condemn them. Then I push them back into the idol's flames. You hear them scream and writhe as they're slowly burned alive. In my opinion, they deserved a punishment far worse than that. Now, just one more to go. As I turn to face the idol, the final triumvirate stands before me. I hold out the blade towards them, showing them my intent to kill. That was my goal: kill the triumvirate, destroy the idol. So, they get down on their knees and look up at me. Without hesitation, I swing the blade and cut off their head. They fall to the ground and blood stains the white of their cloak. I'm not sure what to believe, as they've all had something different to say. Perhaps they meant to use that doubt as a weapon when I got here. I throw away that nonsense and stick to the goal I originally had. With them out of the way, it was time to destroy that idol for good. I take a step forward and my body is assaulted with pain. I can tell that the idol is fighting back, and I fall on my knees. The flames are so hot that I feel like as if I'm melting away too. But no. Something else is happening. It's not just the flames. The idol is trying to kill me, but I'm not the only one here. Inside of me is the monarchy, billions of spirits wanting to help. It's almost as if they're shielding me, sacrificing themselves for me. I stand up and take another step forward. The pain is even worse. I fall to my hands and knees and cry in agony. It's too much. My vision blurs, but after a while, things return to normal. Though the pain has gone away, I start to feel weaker and weaker. I know that the souls inside me are giving their lives for this. If I could get to the idol and attack it, I might be able to win. This was a big maybe, but there was one thing I knew for sure. That I might not live through this, and there was no other option. Every step I took, I could easily be my last. Determination rises within me, and I take another step forward. My body is racked with pain. It's almost impossible to walk. I use the blade as a makeshift cane as the voice sounds in my head. I'm not sure what I just heard, since nobody is actually around me. In these chambers, it would seem that time and space act abnormally. With another step, I grip my teeth, and it feels like I'm being torn apart. As the souls exit my body to shield me, I get noticeably weaker. I tremble with every step, trying as hard as I can to keep myself standing. My comrades call out to me and urge me to keep moving. I start to cry. With another step, I fall right to the ground. I lay there crying and squirming in pain. My grip on the blade tightens as I shake. I use the blade for support and try to rise to my feet. This is taking so much out of me. Would I have enough power in the end? Hoping with every fiber of my being that I do, I take another step forward. I smile, a stark contrast to the tears streaming down my face. With another step, almost facing the idol, I couldn't do this alone. The voices of my comrades and the souls inside me carry me forward. I take one more step and ready the blade. As soon as I thrust it into the idol, things would be over. But as the power within me dwindled, I realized one thing. No matter what happened next, the blade would be destroyed. But if I wanted to get rid of the idol for good, then I would perish as well. In order to live and see another day, I had to hold back just a bit. But if I did that, then there's a chance the idol might not be fully defeated. It could come back in the future to corrupt and decay other innocent worlds. Was keeping my life worth condemning other worlds to suffer like we did? I thrust my blade into the idol and activate it. The blinding white light follows. This was the end. The blade and mere moments would enact my final will. I just have to ask myself, what would that final will be? I mean, bye bitches, die. I couldn't spare myself if that meant other worlds would be hurt. It would be selfish. Even though I wanted to live, I knew I couldn't. As soon as we set sail, I knew that this could be the end for me. But even though I knew it was a possibility, I still didn't want to believe it. I was only fooling myself, thinking that I could see what I fought for. I denied the triumvirate that right, and now I was going to deny it to myself as well. I guess it didn't matter now. I could feel myself fading away. I command the blade to use all the power it can, including that of my life. No matter what happened to me, I could rest knowing one simple fact. Alessia has been given the future that it deserved. In the hands of the people, they were free to live as they please. As everything fades away, I wonder what that future might bring to my allies. Hey, we did it, y'all! We did! Woo! Oh, shit. Oh, so she lived! Hey! Aw. Good. Fuck them for real. That's awesome. So only one died? Wait a damn second. Why am I in my house? My vision fades in and I feel incredibly confused. With everything that just happened, I should definitely be dead. Actually, maybe I was. Far be it from me to decide what death brought. I know that I'm in my house, that much is easily discernible. After rising to a sitting position, though, I noticed something shocking. The lower half of my arm is still missing. Could I have survived? No, that was impossible. What's going on exactly? As my mind starts to fill with possibilities, there's a knock at my door. I'm filled with fright, but then, a moment later, I hear a familiar voice. I rush to the door, and Morty steps inside my house. My heart is beating fast, then joy overtakes me. I give Morty a big hug, and he seems surprised. How? Okay. So I wasn't strong enough and I'm stuck in the loop again. Huh? What? Solace is alive? They're alive? My parents? I'm in complete shock. I stand there, dumbfounded. My arm is still missing, but everybody else is alive. Fuck! A small uncertainty passes before Morty breaks the silence. I don't know what's going on. Am I in a new reality? The Elder is alive, as well as my parents, and I've been inducted? It means that the rebellion was never formed. There was no occupation. Tears start streaming in my eyes, and I give Morty a bigger hug. I don't know what happened exactly, but I'm not about to question it. This is the reward for my journey and sacrifice, then it was worth it. I'm feeling a rush right now. We doing this or what? I cry even harder than Morty can't help but show worry. I nod and tell him everything is fine. And this time something tells me it will stay that way. Okay. Fuck, what time is it? I know I started this shit way late. Oh, fuck. Okay, so... It's like 4 a.m. Oh, click to continue. My dumbass. I'm just gonna count to 2 in my head and click every... So I really enjoyed some of the aspects of this game. The issue is, my biggest issue with this game thus far, has been the whole, you know, the disconnect of, oh, it's so important to train, and then all of a sudden it's no training, and you could just, boom, everyone and their mother can fucking use this. Oh, hey, Sylvie and Pro, dope. Halen and Dominic, wow. Get that money, y'all. Anyway, what was it? My brain isn't smart enough to be able to click at a decent rate and talk about the things I'm thinking about. Anyway, I was just saying, you know, I don't like how, like, everything in the first act was kind of, like, super important, and then, boom, all of a sudden, all the training and, you know, supervising and stuff like that was, like, all rendered worthless. Wait, what? Oh, okay. These are Kickstarter backroom messages. You can read them if you want. You can pause. But then, like, everything in the first act was kind of rendered invalid. And, I mean, I understand, you know, big attack and stuff, but we should have still had that, you know, flow through. I feel like there was a disconnect there. Also, I gotta say, the only character I actually felt any emotion for, other than, of course, the fact I wanted to bang that rabbit, was Sylvie. Sylvie seemed to have, like, the only solid character development to me. Every other one's just felt kind of flat to me. Don't know why. I mean, they had a perfect recipe, backstory, relationships, all that stuff they just fell flat. And I don't know why. Do not ask me why. But that's how it is. Overall, it was a pretty good game. I did like how they were referencing Major Minor. I'm gonna have to play that game again to fully understand, like, because I don't really remember anything about that game at all. Like, I remember bits and pieces of, like, the characters and the overall, like, you were some sort of person who was selected as a person to time travel, or I don't know. I remember the hyena was hot. Anyway, it's a pretty good game. I did enjoy it several points. There were quite a few areas I would try to improve, but that's neither here nor there. So that'll be it for Winds of Change. I do already have a new game set up in the queue that was suggested by one of my viewers. Thank you very much. And you will see what it is the next time I post. Anyway, if you like what you see, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe so you can see my content in the future. Also, while you're here, if you have any game suggestions or you just want to say hi, leave it down in the comment section below. I'm Daisy Hyena. I'll catch you on the next vid.